The day it all ended, Isabelle Vance tore up the letter I'd written her and let the pieces fall to the stage. In front of the entire student body, a wave of laughter erupted from the auditorium. I just stood there at the center podium, a spotlight pinning me in place, feeling the burn of hundreds of mocking eyes. "Leo, do you honestly think you're good enough for me?" Her voice, amplified by the microphone, was as clear and sharp as shattering glass. I looked up at her on the stage. She was in a white dress for the assembly, looking like some untouchable princess, and I was just the clown down below. In that instant, 12 years of my life flashed before my eyes, all the way back to first grade. Carrying her backpack for her, buying her coffee before class, being her study partner for the SATs, fending off other guys who tried to ask her out. 12 years. An entire lifetime, it felt like. I thought it would be enough to make her see me, to give me just one real look. But I finally understood. In her eyes, I wasn't a person. I was a tool. "My mistake," I said into the mic, my voice steady. "Sorry to bother you." Then I turned and walked away. The laughter swelled behind me like a tidal wave, drowning my retreat. The second I stepped out of the auditorium, I made a decision. From that moment on, Leo Martinez and Isabelle Vance were done. Back in homeroom, I started clearing my desk of everything related to her. The candid photos I'd taken, the small gifts I'd picked out so carefully, the thick stack of letters I'd never had the guts to send. "Leo, what are you doing?" my friend Mark asked from the next desk. "Taking out the trash," I said, my face a mask. I dumped everything into a cardboard box and, without a second's hesitation, shoved it into the large recycling bin in the corner of the classroom. It made a dull thump. It felt like something had finally broken for good. It wasn't the sound of the bin. It was the sound of my heart shattering. That night at home, I purged my room. Every trace of her was erased. A photo of us from elementary school, the birthday presents she'd given me over the years, even an old eraser she'd once used. Everything went. When I was finished, I lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, my life would be my own. No more bending over backward for someone else. No more making myself small. Isabelle Vance, this was the last lesson you'd ever teach me. The next morning, I went to school like always, but I didn't wait for her by the entrance. I walked straight into class, sat down, and opened my calculus book. "Leo, you didn't wait for Isabelle," Chloe Chun, our class president, asked with a concerned look. "No reason to," I said without looking up. Chloe paused, like she wanted to say more, but then thought better of it. A few minutes later, Isabelle swept into the classroom. She glanced at me, a flicker of confusion in her eyes, before her usual mask of cool indifference slipped back on. "Leo, did you finish the calculus homework? Let me see it." She stopped at my desk, her tone so casual you'd think yesterday's public execution never happened. I finally looked up, meeting her gaze calmly. "Do it yourself." "What did you say?" Isabelle asked, sure she'd misheard me. I repeated, enunciating each word. "Do it yourself." The color drained from her face. I don't think she could conceive of a world where I would deny her anything. "Leo, are you still mad about yesterday?" "There was a reason for what I did. Just let me explain." "I don't need an explanation." I cut her off. "As of today, you and I have nothing to do with each other." I started packing my bag, ready to head to the library. Isabelle grabbed my arm, her voice rising. "You can't do this to me." I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then gently pulled my arm free. "Isabelle," I said, my voice tired. "It's been 12 years. I'm done." As the words left my mouth, I felt a massive weight lift from my chest. 2. A week later, Julian Croft transferred to our school. He was the classic rich kid, just back from a boarding school in Switzerland. He was handsome, came from money, and instantly became the focus of every girl at Northwood High, including Isabelle. I saw the way she looked at Julian. That starstruck, heart-pounding expression was something she had never once aimed at me. "Class, this is our new student, Julian Croft. Please make him feel welcome," our homeroom teacher said, then told Julian to find an empty seat. The only open desk was next to Isabelle. Julian's eyes scanned the room, finally landing on me. A knowing smirk played on his lips. "Ma'am, I like to sit there," he said, pointing to the desk next to mine. The only problem was Mark was sitting there. "Mark, why don't you go sit by Isabelle?" the teacher said, settling the matter. As Mark gathered his things, he leaned over and whispered, Dude, that guy gives off bad vibes. Watch your back. Julian sat down and immediately turned to me. Hey man, guess we're neighbors. Hope we could be cool. I gave him a polite nod and went back to my work. But I quickly realized Julian was not a simple guy. On the surface, he was friendly to everyone, but he was always watching, always calculating. Especially when it came to me and Isabelle. Leo, I heard you and Isabelle basically grew up together, Julian asked me during a break between classes. We used to, I said flatly. Used to? What about now? A glint of curiosity appeared in his eyes. Now we don't. Julian seemed pleased with that answer. He just smiled and dropped the subject. At lunch, I went to the cafeteria alone. For years, I'd always gotten Isabelle's lunch first. Now, I could finally get the pizza I actually wanted. While I was in line, Chloe came up beside me. Leo, are you really just cutting Isabelle out of your life completely? I glanced at the girl who'd been our class president since middle school, always worried about everyone else. Chloe, some things just run their course. She was quiet for a moment. You know, Isabelle, she's... Whatever she is, it doesn't concern me anymore, I interrupted. Chloe looked at me, her expression tinged with pity. You've changed. People are supposed to grow up. After getting my food, I found a quiet corner to eat. Not far away, Isabelle and Julian were sitting together, laughing and talking. She looked happier than I had ever seen her with me. Watching them, I felt nothing. Not a single thing. Maybe this was for the best. During gym class that afternoon, the coach just told us to do whatever. I was sitting under a tree reading when Julian walked over. Not gonna play basketball? He asked. Not a fan. Were you a fan of? I closed my book and looked up at him. What do you really want to know? Julian chuckled. I like a direct approach. Fine. I want to know why you suddenly ghosted Isabelle. And why do you care? Because I'm interested in her, he said, making no attempt to hide it. But I need to know if you're really out of the picture, or if this is just some game to get her attention. I stood up and brushed the grass off my jeans. Julian, Isabelle and I are over. If you want to ask her out, go for it. You don't need to worry about me. Good, he said, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Thanks for being straight with me. As he walked away, a strange feeling washed over me. There was definitely more to Julian Croft than met the eye. But it wasn't my problem anymore. From now on, I was just going to live my own life. Julian's campaign to win over Isabelle was more intense than I could have imagined. Every morning, he'd have breakfast delivered for her. Not coffee and a bagel from the corner shop, but elaborate pastries from the city's fanciest French bakery. At lunch, he'd pick her up in his Porsche and take her to expensive restaurants downtown. After school, he'd surprise her with gifts from designer brands. The whole school was buzzing about them, and Isabelle never denied the rumors. I just watched it all like an outsider. Leo, are you sure you're okay with this? It doesn't bother you at all? Chloe asked, ever the concerned friend. Why should it? I shot back. She glanced over at Isabelle, who was talking animatedly with Julian, then sighed. I just don't get you guys sometimes. I didn't answer, turning my attention back to my textbook. To say it didn't bother me at all would be a lie. But I knew, deep down, that some people are just gone for good once you lose them. It was better to focus on the future than to dwell on the past. One afternoon, I was studying in the library when Julian appeared in front of my table. Got a minute? He asked. I put down my pen and followed him up to the rooftop. What's on your mind? I asked. Julian leaned against the railing, looking out over the athletic fields. Leo, have you really moved on from Isabelle? I've told you already. Have you? He turned, a smirk on his face. Then do you know why she shot you down so publicly? My heart skipped a beat, but I kept my expression neutral. I don't know, and I don't care. It was because of me, Julian said, dropping the words like a bomb. Before you made your move, I told her that if she said yes to you, I would make sure the entire school found out the truth about her family. I froze. What are you talking about? Her family is broke. They went bankrupt months ago. The house they live in is a rental. The only reason she keeps up this perfect girl image is because she's terrified of anyone finding out how far they've fallen. Julian's words hit me like a physical blow. You blackmailed her? Blackmail is such an ugly word. Let's call it partnership, he said with a smug grin. She turns you down. I keep her secret. Now that she's with me, I give her the financial support to keep up appearances. My hands clenched in a fist. You son of a bitch. Easy there, Leo, Julian said, unfazed by my anger. You should be thanking me. I'm the one who showed you who Isabelle really is. She'd rather be with a total stranger like me than trust that you'd accept her for who she is, financial problems and all. What does that tell you? It tells you that in her heart, you never really mattered. His words were like a knife twisting in my gut. So, he continued, his voice dripping with condescension. Do you still think you've moved on? I took a few deep breaths, forcing myself to calm down. Julian, no matter what you say, it doesn't change anything. Isabelle and I are over. Really? A flicker of disappointment crossed his face. I was kind of hoping you'd play the hero and try to save her. I'm no hero, and she doesn't need saving by me. With that, I turned and walked away. I could hear Julian laughing behind me. You're more rational than I thought, Leo. But rational people are usually the most miserable. Back in the classroom, I couldn't focus. So that was the real reason for the humiliation at the assembly. But did it even matter? Like Julian said, Isabelle chose to trust a stranger she barely knew over me. That told me everything I needed to know. Some people are just not meant to be yours. No matter how hard you try, no matter how much you give, the ending is always the same. I pulled out my phone, found her contact, and deleted it. This time it was for real. 4. When midterm grades came out, I was still ranked first in our class. Isabelle's grades, however, had plummeted. She dropped from the top 10 to somewhere in the 30s. Leo, Isabelle's really struggling. Could you help her out? Chloe asked me. She has Julian, I said without looking up from my work. Julian may have money, but his grades are average at best. He can't help her. I put down my pen and looked at Chloe. And you think I should? You guys grew up together. That's exactly why I need to let her go, I interrupted. Sometimes, trying to help just makes things worse. Chloe stared at me, a puzzled look on her face. You've really changed so much. I have, I admit it. I've learned to live for myself. That afternoon, Isabelle approached me directly. She stood in front of my desk, looking anxious. Leo, can we talk? I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw that she was worn out. The confident sparkle in her eyes was gone. There's nothing to talk about. Please, just for a minute, she said, her voice cracking. I hesitated, then stood up and followed her to the rooftop. What do you want to say? Isabelle stared at the ground for a long moment before finally speaking. Leo, I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize. Yes, I do. She looked up, her eyes filled with tears. I know you heard about my family. I didn't respond. Julian told me he told you everything, she whispered. Leo, I didn't mean to lie to you. I was just... Just what? I didn't want you to look down on me, she sobbed. I was so scared that if you knew my family was broke, you'd laugh at me like everyone else would. Seeing her cry stirred something complicated in me. But mostly it was disappointment. Isabelle, do you know what hurts the most? She shook her head. It's not that your family lost their money. It's not even that you rejected me, I said, my voice quiet but firm. It's that you didn't trust me. After 12 years, you didn't believe I would stand by you. Isabelle stood there, stunned. You trusted Julian, a guy you'd known for less than a month, to keep your secret. But me, the person who was by your side for 12 years, you thought I would mock you. That's the difference between us. Leo, Don't. I cut her off. There's nothing left to explain. We're done. She looked at me with desperation in her eyes. Is there really no chance to fix this? No. I turned and left her there, crying alone on the rooftop. Walking down the stairs, I could hear her sobs, and a part of me ached. But I didn't turn back. Some roads, once taken, you can never return from. Some people, once lost, are lost forever. That's the price of growing up. Back in the classroom, I saw Chloe's worried gaze. She'll be okay, I told her. And you? She asked. I'll be okay too. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Lying in bed, I thought about all the years I'd spent with Isabelle. The good memories, which now felt like thorns in my heart. But I knew that time would eventually heal it. One day, I would forget her completely. 5. Julian and Isabelle broke up. The news spread through the school like wildfire. The rumor was that Julian got bored and just dropped her. Suddenly, Isabelle was on her own again. No one was delivering her fancy breakfasts. No Portia was waiting for her after school, and the designer gifts stopped coming. She had fallen from the clouds and hit the ground hard. Leo, Isabelle really needs a friend right now, Chloe said, trying to play peacemaker again. Then you should be her friend. I mean, she needs a friend like you. I put down my pen and looked at her seriously. You think I should go back to her? Chloe nodded. I think you two still have a chance. Chloe, do you know what self-respect is? She looked taken aback. It means that there's a line, I continued. And the moment Isabelle chose Julian, she crossed it. She trampled all over my dignity. Now that Julian's tired of her, she wants to come back? Why on earth should I take her? But she's in a lot of pain. That was her choice, I said, my voice cold. Everyone has to live with the consequences of their choices. Chloe just looked at me, her eyes full of disappointment. Leo, you've become so cold. Yes, I have, I agreed. Because I've learned how to protect myself. After school that day, Isabelle was waiting for me at the main entrance. She just stood there, clearly waiting for someone. When she saw me, a flicker of hope crossed her face. Leo, she called out. I stopped and looked at her. She had lost weight and her face was pale. The confident, popular girl was gone. Can we talk? She asked tentatively. There's nothing to talk about. Please, just for a few minutes. I glanced at my watch. You have 3. Isabelle looked like she'd been thrown a lifeline. Leo, I know you still care about me, right? Wrong. Then why are you willing to listen to me? Because I'm morbidly curious about what else you could possibly have to say. My words hit her like a slap, and her face paled even more. Leo, I admit I was wrong about everything, but now I know who really cares about me. And I want to start over, she said, gathering her courage. I want to start over with you. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Isabelle, do you think feelings are a game? You could just press start and stop whenever you feel like it. No, that's not it. I'm serious. Serious? I cut her off. Weren't you serious when you were with Julian? Isabelle had nothing to say to that. Time's up, I said, looking at my watch again. Isabelle, there is no future for us. Go find someone who actually loves you. I turned to leave. Her voice followed me, thin and desperate. Leo, do you really not love me anymore? I didn't turn around, but I answered in my head. It's not that I don't love you. It's that I can't afford to. Some wounds, once inflicted, never truly heal. And some people, once they leave, can never come back. That's just reality. 6. Senior year, second semester. The pressure was immense. Everyone was grinding for final exams and college applications. I held my spot as valedictorian, my sights set on MIT. Isabelle's academic performance was still shaky. Her dream schools had shifted from top-tier universities to regular state colleges. Leo, Isabelle wants to ask if you'll tutor her in calculus, Chloe said, approaching my desk again. This time, I didn't immediately refuse. Why doesn't she ask me herself? She's scared you'll say no, Chloe answered honestly. I thought for a moment. Tell her to come ask me herself. Chloe's eyes lit up. So you'll do it? I didn't say that, but I'll hear her out. That afternoon, Isabelle came to my desk. She was visibly nervous. Leo, I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but she took a deep breath. I really need your help. I put down my pen. Why me? There are plenty of other people who are good at calculus. Because you're the only one who explains it in a way I can understand, she said. We've been studying together for 12 years. You know how my brain works. She had a point. My conditions, I said bluntly. What? The conditions for me tutoring you. Isabelle paused, then nodded. Okay, anything I can do, I'll do. First, this is strictly about tutoring. Nothing else. Second, you'll pay me the standard hourly rate. Third, if your grades don't improve significantly, I'm done. Isabelle nodded again. I agree. We'll start tomorrow, then. And so, I began tutoring Isabelle in calculus. We met in the library for 2 hours every day after school. I would explain concepts and walk her through problems, and she would listen intently. It was a strange feeling. We sat so close, yet there was a vast distance between us. Leo, I still don't get this one, she said, frowning at a problem set. I went over to her side of the table and patiently broke down the steps. The way she focused reminded me of when we were kids, when she'd always come to me with homework she couldn't figure out. Got it now? I asked. She nodded, then looked up at me. You've changed, Leo. How so? You're more patient, more mature, she said, a complicated look in her eyes. If I had realized how great you were sooner, would any of this have happened? I didn't answer her question. Focus on the work, I said, returning to my seat. A month later, Isabelle's calculus grade had shot up. She scored a 92 on the latest test, a 20-point improvement. Leo, thank you, she said, her face beaming. That was your own hard work. No, I couldn't have improved this fast without you. Seeing her so happy brought a flicker of warmth to my chest, but I quickly suppressed it. I couldn't let myself feel anything for her again. Keep it up was all I said. After that, Isabelle started relying on me for more than just schoolwork. Leo, I have a cold. Can you grab some medicine for me? Leo, the cafeteria food is awful. Do you know any good places to order from? Leo, I'm having a bad day. Can you talk with me for a bit? Most of the time I refused, but sometimes I'd give in. And that's what worried me. I was terrified of falling back into that trap. 7. 3 months before graduation, a crisis hit. Isabelle's mom was hospitalized. She needed an urgent medical procedure, and their family had no money left. Leo, can you lend me some money? She asked, her face streaked with tears when she found me. Seeing her so distraught was difficult. How much? $5,000, she whispered. I know it's a huge amount, but I have nowhere else to turn. $5,000 was a fortune for a high school student, but I had it. Over the years, I'd saved up nearly $10,000 from prize money at academic competitions and cash gifts from relatives. I'll lend it to you, I said. Isabelle stared at me, shocked that I'd agreed so easily. Really? Yes, but you have to sign a promissory note. Of course, whatever you need. I went home, got the money from my bank account, and gave it to her. Her hands trembled as she took the envelope. Leo, thank you, she sobbed. I promise I'll pay you back. Don't worry about it right now. Just take care of your mom. Watching her walk away, I felt a confusing mix of emotions. Why did I help her? Was it just pity, or was it because a part of me still cared? I was too scared to examine the question too closely. A few days later, Isabelle's mom had a successful surgery. Isabelle came to thank me. Leo, if it weren't for you, I don't know what I would have done. It was nothing. No, you saved us, she said earnestly. I'll never forget this. Her words made me feel uneasy. Just focus on your studies. Get into a good college. I will, she said, nodding fiercely. After that, Isabelle threw herself into her schoolwork with a new intensity. She was the first one in the classroom every morning and the last one to leave. Her grades steadily climbed. Leo, I think I might actually get into a good university now, she told me one day, her eyes shining. That's great. Keep it up. It's all because of you, she said, looking me straight in the eye. Leo, I want to tell you. Don't. I cut her off. Just study. I knew what she wanted to say, but I didn't want to hear it. Some words, once spoken, can't be taken back. And I wasn't willing to have my heart broken a second time. A month before graduation, our school held its final round of mock exams. I was still first in the class. Isabelle tested into the top 15. It was the best she'd ever ranked. Leo, I think I actually have a shot, she said happily. Good. Keep working hard. If I get into a good school, do you think we could? Isabelle, I said, my voice serious. Some things can't be fixed, no matter how hard you try. The smile on her face vanished. We can't go back, I continued. You have to understand that. Desperation flickered in her eyes. Why? I've changed so much, and I'm trying to make up for my mistakes. Why won't you give me another chance? Because some damage can't be undone, I said calmly. Isabelle, find someone who will truly love you. Tears streamed down her face. But this time I didn't waver. Some decisions, once made, are final. This was mine. 8 final exams were over. I did well. My scores were more than enough for MIT. Isabelle also did great. She was on track for a good university. On the last day of school, our class had a celebratory dinner at a local pizza place. Everyone was excited, talking about college and the future. I sat in a corner booth, quietly eating my slice. Leo, what are you majoring in? A classmate asked. Computer science. What are you going to do after you graduate? Haven't thought that far ahead. Just focusing on school for now. Isabelle was sitting a few tables away, stealing glances at me all night. I pretended not to notice. After dinner, we all went our separate ways. I was walking home when Isabelle caught up to me. Leo, wait. I stopped. Can we talk? One last time. I considered it, then nodded. We walked to a nearby park and sat on a bench. The night air was cool, and everything was quiet. So, high school's over, she said softly. Yeah. I wanted to apologize, she said, turning to look at me. For everything I did to hurt you. I stayed silent. I know saying it now doesn't change anything, but I still have to say it, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Leo, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Just let it go. It's in the past. No, I can't let it go, she said, shaking her head. I need to remember this for the rest of my life. I need to remember how I personally destroyed the one person in this world who loved me more than anything. My chest tightened at her words. Isabelle, let me finish, she interrupted. Leo, I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't expect you to. I just want you to know that, once upon a time, a girl named Isabelle Vance loved you with all her heart. With that, she stood up. Goodbye, Leo. I hope you have an amazing future, and I hope you find the person you're meant to be with. She took a few steps, then turned back. And that $5,000, I'll pay you back as soon as I can. I watched her walk away until she disappeared into the darkness, then sat on that bench for a long time. I felt a strange mix of relief, sadness, and something else I couldn't name. Was this really the end? 12 years of my life, over just like that. Maybe it was for the best. At least now, we could both start over. Back home, I lay in bed thinking. I thought about all the moments we'd shared. The good, the bad, the laughter, the tears. It was all just a memory now. Maybe years from now, I'd be grateful for this experience. It taught me about love, about pain, and about what it means to grow up. 9. The acceptance letters arrived. As expected, I got into MIT. Isabelle was accepted to Boston University. We were both heading to the Boston area, but I made no effort to contact her. Some stories are better left finished. A week before I was scheduled to leave, I was packing and came across the promissory note. IOU from Isabelle Vance for the amount of $5,000, dated. I looked at the piece of paper for a moment, then tore it into tiny pieces. Let it go. Consider it a final payment on the past. That afternoon, the doorbell rang. It was Isabelle. She was holding an envelope. Leo, this is the money I owe you, she said. I didn't take it. You don't need to pay me back. What? Why? Consider it a graduation present. Isabelle stared at me, her eyes filled with a complex emotion. Leo, why are you still so good to me? There's no reason, I said evenly. I just hope you have a good life. Her eyes welled up. Leo, don't say anything. I cut her off. We're both starting new lives. She was quiet for a moment, then placed the envelope on the doorstep. Leo, even if we can't start over, I was hoping. Maybe we could at least be friends. Friends? Yeah, like we were when we were kids, she said, a hopeful look on her face. I thought about it, then slowly shook my head. Isabelle, we can't go back. The light in her eyes died. But I wish you all the best in Boston, I added. She nodded, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. Goodbye, Leo. Goodbye. I watched her walk away, and this time I felt a sense of calm. This was the real end. That night, I finished packing for my new life in Cambridge. I was excited. I would meet new people, have new experiences. As for Isabelle, she would just be a chapter in the book of my youth. Some people are only meant to walk with you for a part of the journey. The ones who are meant to stay will be there for the whole thing. I was still young. Anything was possible. 2 years later, I saw her in the library at MIT. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, and sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. I was deep into a textbook when I felt someone's gaze on me. I looked up and saw Isabelle. She was sitting a few rows away, a stack of books in front of her. When our eyes met, she offered a small smile and walked over. Leo, small world. Yeah, it is, I said, closing my book. What brings you here? Doing some research for a paper, she said, sitting in the chair across from me. You still like sitting in this spot? Old habits. We made small talk for a few minutes. She was doing well at BU, her grades were good, and she had a boyfriend. I gave her the short version of my life, classes, research, not much else. You've changed a lot, she said, studying my face. How so? You seem more confident. Happier, she said, a wistful look in her eyes. Your girlfriend must be a very lucky person. I don't have a girlfriend. Why not? A great guy like you must have girls lining up. I just smiled. Maybe I have high standards. She fell silent for a moment, then asked, Leo, are you still holding on to what happened back then? No, I said, shaking my head. The past is the past. Then why aren't you dating? Because I haven't met the right person yet. She nodded, seeming to accept that. As she got up to leave, she paused. Leo, if you could go back in time, would you still choose to fall for me? I thought about her question for a long time. No, I finally answered. A shadow of disappointment crossed her face, but she quickly covered it with a smile. You're right. I wasn't worth it. It's not about being worthy. I corrected her. It's about being right for each other. Isabelle, we were just two different people from two different worlds. She nodded slowly. I understand. Well, take care. You too. I watched her walk away, her figure receding down the long aisle of books, and I felt nothing but a calm sense of finality. This encounter confirmed it. I had completely and totally moved on. All that remained for Isabelle was the faint, distant fondness one has for a childhood friend. I walked out of the library and into the bustling campus. Students were hurrying to and from classes, everyone focused on their own path. I was one of them. Tomorrow, I had a major project presentation. The day after, an academic conference. Next month, I was starting an internship. My life was full, challenging, and moving forward. This was the life I wanted. There were no regrets and no attachments to what was. That chapter of my life was officially closed. I was already writing a new one, and in this one, there was no room for Isabelle Vance.